When the days drew near for him to be taken up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. And he sent messengers ahead of him. On their way, they entered a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. But they did not receive him, because his face was set toward Jerusalem. When his disciples, James and John, saw that, they said, Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them? But he turned and rebuked them. Then they went on to another village. As they were going along the road, someone said to him, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, Foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. To another he said, Follow me. But he said, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, Let the dead bury their own dead. But as for you, go and proclaim the kingdom of God. Another said, I will follow you, Lord, but let me first say farewell to those at my home. Jesus said to him, No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. The gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. From God our Father and from our living Lord and loving Savior, Jesus Christ. A man's trudging along, shoulders bent, head hangs, an image of exhaustion and despair. It also reminds me of the TV series Kung Fu. Does anybody remember that? But it's not. Who is it? Who is it that who says, I've had enough, Lord. I'm done. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors. Is it Job? Sounds like Job. Not Job. Is it Jeremiah, the weeping prophet? This is Michelangelo's version. That kind of looks like someone who's ready to give up, throw in the towel. It's not. It's Elijah, one of the greatest prophets of God to have ever lived. And incidentally, we're reading from Luke, the 9th chapter today. And earlier on in the 9th chapter, when Jesus was on the Mount of Transfiguration, where Moses and Elijah showed up. Elijah. This is probably his most famous act for God as a prophet, where he defeated the prophets of Baal at Mount Carmel. But that didn't last long. Our first reading is after this. After this, he could do no wrong until he found out, until the queen found out that he killed her prophets. And she said, I'm going to kill that guy. He killed my guys, I'm going to kill him. He runs away. Angels give him food. You've heard of angel food cake? Well, not really. He says, I'm the only one, Lord. I'm the only one. And the Lord said, and I've used this picture just a couple weeks ago. It's my favorite one. Go to the cave. He hides out there. And the Lord's going to show up. The Lord's going to pass you by. So be ready. Be ready. And there's a great wind that howled down through the mountainside. You could feel it. You could feel it trying to suck him out of the cave. It was so strong. But the Lord wasn't in the wind. And then an earthquake. And rocks were falling down in front of him. You could see that the cave was going to fall on top of him. The Lord was not in the earthquake. And then a fire. Fire like he called down from heaven. But the Lord was not in the fire. Then came a still, small, tiny voice. The sound of silence is how you translate it in Hebrew. And then God said, what are you doing here? I've been very zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. But the Israelites, they don't care about you. They've killed all your prophets, they've rejected your covenant, knocked down your temples and altars, and they're trying to kill me now. And I'm the only one left. And they're seeking my life. And God said, well, I want you to anoint some people. That's where our reading takes over. I want you to go and find these people and commission them. And by the way, you think you're the only one? There's 7,000 people that have not worshipped Baal. You don't know who, you haven't met them, but I know where they are, and you're not alone. You're not the only one left. You may feel like it, it may look like it, but things are not always as they seem. That's what we have in our first reading today. He goes and he finds Elisha plowing with oxen. And God says, that's the one. That's the one I want you to hand off the baton to. He's gonna take over for you. And he doesn't. He doesn't. Elisha literally cuts loose everything that is attaching him to that place. He kills the oxen, takes the yoke, the wooden implements, the things that hold them together, builds a fire and cooks them up and gives the food away. It's over. Even if he changes his mind, it's too late, It's too late. He cuts loose all attachments to security. And he goes and follows Elijah. He was a highly respected teacher. He could have gotten any of the plums of teaching universities. California, New York, or the richest plum of them all, Chicago. But he said, no, I appreciate the offer to teach, but I have to go back. Otherwise, I would be a living lie to everything that I believe in and everything that I have written. It was the best-selling book that got his attention, or got everyone's attention about it. And they all wanted him to come and be this visiting professor at their universities, kind of have a badge of honor. We have this person here teaching, visiting professor, to draw more people to come to their colleges and universities. Back home, he could have taken the loyalty oath, and he would have been able to keep his church. He could write his books and preach his sermons in the open. But he said, my loyalty is to Christ. When Christ calls a man, he said, he bids him come and die. When he was asked to help be a spy and give information, he said, no, I don't think it's that important. I'm going to stick to my books. But then he found out the truth of what was going on in his home country. And it forced him to see the evil that was going on. He said, I believe it is better, finally he said, I believe it is better to do evil, to do an evil thing, than to be evil. And so he joined the movement. He could have escaped when he got caught, with a guard that understood that the end was coming, to join his fiancée, Maria. But he stayed in prison to be with his friends that were also locked up. He wrote a book, pamphlet, Letters from Prison. He could have negotiated negotiated on behalf of the party for a conditional surrender. But he said, no, there's no conditions that need to happen here. Our country must be defeated militarily. He had many opportunities to save himself, but instead he chose the path to discipleship. Anybody know who that fellow is? Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He first, he didn't believe the stories until he saw and talked to people firsthand. He wrote the book that everybody wanted him to teach, The Cost of Discipleship. That's why he said, if I stay in the United States and don't go back to Germany and try to stop what's going on, I can't. I'd be living a lie. I just wrote a book, how important it is to follow Christ and the cost that it is. And when Christ calls a man, he bids him, come and die. And now I'm going to hang out in California? Chicago? Couldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. The cost of discipleship. That's what's going on in our gospel today. In 1519, Veracruz, this fellow, upon reaching the New World, burned his ships. As a result, his men were well motivated. His name was Cortez. What does it mean to follow Jesus? What is Jesus asking us to do? That's what's going on in our gospel today. Jesus, Luke tells us, set his face like flint. Well, what does that mean? Well, what is flint? What does flint do? It's a very hard rock. You can get a flint and steel kit to help start a fire. Can we get them at your place? Maybe. Maybe. I know you can get them for us. Flint, you take the steel on the flint and it makes sparks. That's how hard that rock is. What's going on? Set his face like flint, and his disciples wanted to prepare the village of Samaritans. They didn't want to follow him because he set his face toward Jerusalem. Interesting. Then, the next person comes along. I'll follow you wherever you go. Jesus responds with an interesting response. Foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Jesus is going to walk the way of sorrows and rejection. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to follow me still? I'll follow you wherever you go. We don't know if he does or not. Luke doesn't tell us that, but maybe it gives this man a pause. Often the potential disciples of Jesus fail to consider seriously the cost of discipleship. And so Jesus warns them, tells them right out, there's no place for me in this world. Everyone else has a place, but not Jesus. The second one is recruited by Jesus. Follow me. Follow me. Sure, first, let me bury my father. That sounds like a reasonable request. Your Your father's not going to bury himself if he's dead. Let me bury my father. But what it also could mean is, let me go back until my father dies. He's getting old. And because I'm the next in line, after that's done, I'll take care of it. It's not just taking care of the dead and the dying, but picking up the responsibilities afterwards. Loyalty to Jesus and the kingdom he brings is more important than loyalty to the family. The son has a duty, and in this culture, and this is pointed out in a book called Reading the Parables, reading the Gospels, hearing the parables through Middle Eastern eyes, through that culture where Jesus was. And there, the duty of the son is to remain at home until not only the father dies, but who else? Mother. You stick around. You can't. You gotta wait. You gotta take care of your parents. Only after your parents are gone, then can you make a decision for yourself. The third one sounds the harshest. What's wrong with saying goodbye? What's wrong with saying goodbye? I will follow you, Lord. I will follow you. But after comes the word but. Yeah, we've heard that. We've heard the buts, haven't we? I've used the but myself. Son, I am so proud of you, but... You ever heard that, son? Probably, yeah. And then after you say it, it's like, oh, well, it didn't sound quite right. Yeah. They say whatever you say before the butt cancels out. I will follow you, Lord, but first, let me say goodbye. Let me say farewell. Our first reading, Elisha says exactly that very thing. First, let me say goodbye. And Elijah says, hey, whatever, that's fine. I don't care. That's cool. Go ahead. And he goes home and says goodbye. What's wrong with saying goodbye? He even had enough time to have a barbecue for everyone, for the whole family, a farewell barbecue. And Elijah didn't say, oh, what are you doing? We're in a hurry. Come on, let's go. Tapping his sundial watch. The Greek expression here can be translated, let me take leave. And that adds another level. What is he really asking? I was watching an old movie a couple of weeks ago. The Longest Day was filmed in black and white, even though they could have color film. He said, no, I want it to be black and white because that's what I grew up watching about World War II. Was in black and white. We go to the movies and everything was in black and white. And so I'm going to use black and white film. Longest Day. One of the best war movies ever made. And Steven Spielberg said the same thing when he made Schindler's List. He says, I want to use black and white film. Have you ever seen any of those movies, Longest Day? Okay. How about Schindler's List? Okay, you've seen those movies, yeah. It makes you feel like, wow. I was right there, black and white. Well, there's one scene, Richard Burton's in there. He was actually filming Cleopatra, and they said, well, come on in. You can film this movie between scenes. Come in. He said, okay. Anyway, there's a scene, they got to hold this bridge. And he kept hearing the words, hold until relieved. He gave that message to the person. Hold until relieved. Let me take my leave. What is he really asking? Permission. Let me get permission from my parents first. It's not just saying, let me say goodbye. It's, let me get their permission. Those around Jesus listening to the man who said, yeah, I'm going to follow you, but first let me go and say goodbye. They all knew that this man wasn't going to go home to plant one last kiss on his father's cheek and hear his mother's parting words of wisdom and encouragement. They knew that. You got to get permission. And in those days, what do you mean you're going to follow Jesus? Who's Jesus? What does he do? How much money? What kind of business? What are the odds of him being able to get permission? Luke understood this. The call of Jesus takes priority over all other loyalties. The professor who wrote the book, Seeing the Parables Through Middle Eastern Eyes, he wrote this. I remember the Middle Eastern seminary students who literally turned white when this text was expounded with its clear affirmation that Jesus is claiming an authority higher than the authority of their fathers. He said, there's some blood drained from their faces. What? You mean, even if our parents don't want us to? Totally contrary to what they grew up with. And that was the radicalness of this for Luke as well. The claim that Jesus has for us is not priority over the worst of our relationships, not just telling us to forsake the things that are that are fleshly, like Paul tells us. Of course, you have to reject those things, but Jesus says, I want priority over the best in your lives. Jesus never said to choose him over the devil, but to choose him over everything. And the remarkable thing is that those who have done so have been freed from possession and worship of everything else, even of the family. And have found a distance given them when we do that, to actually love one another as we should. What is Jesus after? How do we manage the high cost of discipleship? We don't. It's high cost. It can't be managed, can't be balanced, can't be prioritized. What does Jesus say? Follow me. It can only be lived. Jesus set his face straight ahead to the cross. His determination is the gift that keeps on giving to us. We're not disciples because we decide to be. Jesus has decided and called us, and he leads us himself. He leads us himself. He goes ahead, he goes beside, he goes behind and above us. Thanks be to God. Amen. Please stand and let us confess now together our Christian faith.